Good evening. Tonight, sorry, I had to close my door. Tonight you should tell your parents that you need a piece of pie to eat while you're doing your notes. Or you can go get yourself something that resembles a pie, like a snack cake or something. I don't know. But we are going to be talking about PI, not PIE, but PI. Pi. Some of you may be wondering, why is pi in math spelled PI? Well, it's a Greek term, so, it's not an English word. That's why it looks weird, but it is just PI. Sometimes you might see it look like this. 2 lines with a squiggly on top also means pi. And you might be wondering, how does pi relate to what we've been doing in class? Well, it relates perfectly because all pi is a ratio. Pi is a ratio comparing the circumference of a circle to its diameter. So let's look at what those parts are. All right. So circumference of a circle. Let's see if we have a circle here. Okay. Just freehanding a circle. You know that sometimes it's not very easy. The circumference of a circle is the perimeter of a circle. Okay, that's the circumference. Just the area, the rim around the circle, the outside of the circle, that's the circumference. The other part of pi is the diameter of a circle. Do you remember what a diameter is? See if you can kind of tell yourself what it is again. It is, hopefully you said this, the width across the circle. The width of the circle. Okay? It's the width of the circle. So this is your circle's width, and that is your diameter. Okay. So I will highlight that orange. Go with my color coding here. So we need to sometimes know what the diameter is. The diameter equals 2 radii. That's how you do it. It looks very weird. Anyways, it's the plural of radius. And the way that they get a radius is there's a center. That's the very center of the circle. Just find the center of the circle. And then you draw a line out to the edge of the circle, the perimeter of the circle, and that's your radius. So 2 radii equals 1 diameter. Okay, because you were to keep this going on the other side, that'd be the same thing as this, the whole width of the circle. Okay. So now we are familiar with the parts of the circle again. So it doesn't matter what the circle size is. It could be my pen cap, the circle here, or it could be the biggest circle you could ever think of, like a giant Ferris wheel. As long as it's a circle. The cool thing about that is that the circumference of any circle, which is the width around the circle, is going to be, when you compare it to its diameter, which is the width of the circle, it's going to be 3.14 times bigger. So you take the diameter of any circle, and you would if you tried to wrap it around that in one circle, you would do it 1, 2, 3, and a little bit more, 3.14. That's where you get 3.14. So pi equals 3.14. So it is a proportion. You might see it written as a fraction form, 22/7. This is the same thing as 3.14. And we have to be careful when we say equals. We can't say equals because you know pi goes on forever. It is an infinite decimal. So we have to say little squiggly lines. These little squiggly lines mean about. Okay, pi is about 3.14. So, let's look at some things about pi. If I give you a circle, we're going to draw another circle. I know circles are not always easy to draw. Do your best. Okay, example 1. We have a circle, and I tell you that the diameter of the circle, let's call that a little d, is 10 inches. Could you find the circumference of the circle? Let's see if we have all the parts. Let's see here. So we have the diameter. Do we have the radius? If we have the diameter, we have the radius? Yes. The radius is always going to be half of the diameter, because look here, the radius is halfway across. The radius here was halfway across the circle. So it's the same thing here. It's going to be 5 inches. That's your 5 inches. And we could set up some proportions. We could figure out the circumference, but that's not what we're going to be doing right now. Okay, we're not looking at circumference as much right now. I just want you to see that pi is a proportion. So I want to compare that circle to a smaller circle. In this circle, the diameter is 6 inches. Okay. Could you figure out what the radius is? Yes, it's just half. It's 3 inches. So I was going to set up a proportion here, but this one you don't even need to set up a proportion because it was so easy. Was we know that the radius is half of pi. So, but if we wanted to, I could show you how it's always proportionate. All circles are similar because they're all circles, as long as they're circles. So you could compare the diameter of this one here to the diameter of this one over here. And over here we know that the radius was 5. So we could cross multiply 5 times 6 and get 30. Divide by 10 and we would get 3. We would get that missing part, which is what we already knew. But even if we didn't know that radius was half of the diameter, we could figure out what this missing part was by setting up a proportion, because circles are always similar figures. Okay, let's do another one. Sorry, example 2. Apparently don't know how to count. This time I'm going to give you the radius. And over here I'm giving you the diameter. So could you set up a proportion and figure out the missing pieces? Sure. You don't even have to do that because we know how radius compares to diameter, but we are going to do that this time. So we're going to say radius on top, diameter on bottom. So the radius of the top one is 8 and the diameter of the bottom one is 9. Okay, so we know that the diameter is, if the radius is 8, we know the diameter is 16. And here we could cross multiply and divide, or we just know that half of 9 is 4.5. Okay, so we figured out the missing parts to the measurements we had. Okay, so now let's do another one. This time, get another color. We're going to look at that pi formula. Our pi formula is circumference divided by diameter equals pi. Okay, so if I give you a circle that is 30 centimeters in diameter, from the 30 centimeters, and this one, the diameter is 15 centimeters. Could we figure out and on this one, sorry, I need to give you this. Your circumference is about 94 centimeters. I say about because it's a rounded number. Could we figure out your circumference on this one if we set up some proportions? You bet we could. So we are going to set up a proportion. We know our formula for pi is circumference over diameter. So the circumference of the first circle here is 94 centimeters. And the diameter is 30. We don't know the circumference of, we don't know this. It's missing. We're going to call that C. We don't know that C here of the small circle, but we do know the diameter is 15. So we could cross multiply 94 times 15 and then divide by 30. To save time, 94 times 15 is 1,410. And then we're going to divide by 30. And we get 47. So we just cross multiplied and divided to get the answer here, 47. Okay, so you could figure out the missing piece of the circles, circumference or diameter, just because we know that those are proportioned to each other. As long as you have two circles to compare with, you could do the same thing we've done for similar figures and find out the missing pieces. Okay? Alright, that's all we have for tonight. Tomorrow in class we're going to be doing a fun activity with food and about pi. So I'll see you there. Have a good night.